You don't have a motivation problem, and you probably don't have a laziness problem either. Your real problem is much harder to notice. Every night, tomorrow feels like a completely different person. Tomorrow we'll wake up early. Tomorrow we'll exercise. Tomorrow we'll finally start that project. Tomorrow seems disciplined, focused, almost heroic, but when tomorrow finally arrives, it has a new name, today, and today suddenly wants to wait for tomorrow again. Why does tomorrow always seem more capable than today? Because by the end of this video, you'll understand the invisible trick your brain has been playing on you for years. And once you see it, you'll never hear the words, "I'll start tomorrow," the same way again. Think about the last promise you made to yourself. Maybe it was learning a new skill, going to the gym, starting a business, reading more, saving money. At first, it felt exciting. You imagined the future version of yourself, healthier, smarter, more confident, more successful. For a few minutes, that future felt real. Then something strange happened. You didn't say, "I don't want that anymore." You said, "I'll start tomorrow." It sounds responsible, it sounds reasonable, it even sounds productive. But that single sentence has quietly stolen years from people's lives, not because tomorrow never comes, but because tomorrow always looks cheaper than today. And that's where the illusion begins. Imagine I gave you two choices. You can work on your biggest goal right now, or you can start tomorrow. Most people instinctively choose tomorrow, not because tomorrow is actually better, but because tomorrow doesn't have to pay today's cost. Today's version of you has to deal with uncertainty, effort, mistakes, and discomfort. Tomorrow doesn't. Tomorrow exists only in your imagination, and imagination is incredibly generous. It quietly edits out the hard parts. Tomorrow, finishing the workout without feeling sore, starting the business without facing rejection, and studying without getting bored. It's selling you a version of tomorrow that has never existed. Here's something fascinating. Imagine I asked you to spend 3 hours watching your favorite YouTuber. Easy. Now imagine I asked you to spend 3 hours studying something difficult. Same amount of time. Completely different feeling. Why? Because your brain isn't measuring hours, it's predicting effort. Before you begin anything difficult, your brain tries to estimate how uncomfortable it's going to feel. The problem is that those predictions are often exaggerated. It's like standing beside a swimming pool, convinced the water will be freezing. Then you finally jump in and realize it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined. Your brain keeps making predictions, but predictions aren't reality. Have you ever noticed what happens the exact moment you're about to start? Suddenly your phone becomes interesting. You remember a message you forgot to reply to. You wonder what's in the kitchen. Maybe your desk suddenly feels too messy. Maybe now seems like the perfect time to organize your files. It's almost funny. A task you've ignored for weeks suddenly feels urgent the moment you're about to begin something important. That isn't a coincidence. Your brain has one simple job: save energy whenever possible. For most of human history, that was an incredible survival strategy. Food wasn't guaranteed. Energy was precious. Using it carelessly could be dangerous. So your brain evolved to ask one question before almost every challenge: is this effort really necessary? Thousands of years later, that same system is still running. The problem is that it doesn't know the difference between running from danger and writing an email, between escaping a predator and opening a textbook, or between surviving and starting a business. It's trying to protect you. But it's protecting you from the wrong thing, and here's where the trap becomes even smarter. You watch a productivity video, you read another self-improvement book, you buy a notebook, you create the perfect schedule, you color code your calendar, you tell yourself this time will be different. And strangely, you already feel better even though nothing has changed yet. Because your brain enjoys the feeling of progress, sometimes it struggles to tell the difference between preparing for change and creating change. Planning feels productive, learning feels productive, imagining success feels productive. Actually, beginning is the only thing that moves your life forward. That's why it's possible to spend hours learning how to change your life without changing it at all. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, I understand why this happens, but understanding it has never made me start. Exactly, because understanding isn't the finish line, it's the beginning. The real question is, how do you stop your brain from making tomorrow look better than today? The answer is surprisingly simple. Not easy, but simple. Successful people aren't successful because they wake up feeling motivated every morning. They simply stop asking motivation for permission. Instead, they begin before their brain has enough time to negotiate. Imagine trying to push a broken-down car. The first few seconds feel impossibly heavy. Every muscle complains. Then the car begins to move, and something changes. Keeping it moving takes far less effort than getting it moving. Many meaningful tasks work exactly the same way. The hardest part is rarely the work itself. It's crossing the invisible line between not starting and starting. Because once you've begun, your brain gets new evidence. This wasn't as bad as I expected. That's something imagination could never teach. Only action can. Now think about the goals that scare you the most. Write a book, start a business, lose 20 kilos, learn a new language. Those sound like actions, but they aren't. They're destinations. Imagine opening your GPS and typing "drive across an entire continent." It feels overwhelming, not because it's impossible, but because your brain is trying to imagine the whole journey at once. Now imagine the GPS simply says, "turn left." One instruction, one decision. Suddenly it's manageable. The destination didn't change, only the first step became clear. Your brain doesn't reject big dreams, it rejects unclear beginnings. And when the beginning feels unclear, doing nothing suddenly feels like the safest option. That's why one tiny action is far more powerful than one giant intention. So don't ask, "How do I finish?" Ask, "What's the smallest action that proves I've started?" Not "write the chapter," write one sentence. Not "study for 3 hours." Open the book, read one page. Not "work out for an hour." Put on your shoes, walk outside. These actions seem almost too small to matter. That's exactly why they matter. You're not lowering your ambition. You're lowering the resistance between thought and action. And once that resistance breaks, something unexpected happens. Starting the second step becomes easier than starting the first. There's one more piece of the puzzle, and it might be the most important one. Every time you postpone something important, your brain learns from it. Not "this task is impossible." Something much quieter, "avoiding this made me feel better." Your brain loves patterns. If avoiding discomfort works today, it will suggest avoiding it tomorrow and the day after that. Without realizing it, you're training your brain to expect delay. But the opposite is true too. Every time you begin, even if it's only for 2 minutes, your brain learns something different. I survived. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I expected. That's how confidence is built, not by thinking, by collecting evidence, one small action at a time. Now think back to the beginning of this video, that future version of yourself, the healthier body. The new skill, the business, the confidence. That person isn't created in one extraordinary weekend. They aren't built by one burst of motivation. They're built so quietly that most people never notice it's happening. One page, one workout, one difficult conversation, one application, one email, one promise kept to yourself. None of those moments feel life-changing. Until one day you look back and realize your life changed because of hundreds of moments that looked too small to matter. Tonight, you'll probably hear that familiar voice again. Start tomorrow. When it does, don't argue with it. Don't hate yourself for hearing it, just recognize it. That voice isn't predicting your future, it's predicting today's discomfort. And those are not the same thing. Tomorrow was never more disciplined than today. Tomorrow was never more motivated than today. Tomorrow was simply today without today's cost. So don't promise yourself you'll change your entire life tomorrow. Promise yourself you'll begin before your brain has time to negotiate. Because your future isn't built by the days you feel inspired. It's built by the ordinary days when you start anyway. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, you'll become the person you kept waiting for tomorrow to be.